From the life of Saul, as he was called to be king by God. And in the end, you know what happened? God rejected him. My God. So imagine you get the opportunity to represent Little Grenada on the international market. Yeah? To show the world that Grenada is the best place in the Caribbean. And now we have the nicest set of people in the world. You get the opportunity. What an honor. What a privilege for you to feel of all the Grenadians. You, Sister Alma, or Sister Lisa, you get the opportunity to show the world what Grenada is really like. Well, here's what. Saul was in a similar situation. Of all the people in the entire history of Israel, Saul got the opportunity to be the first king of the entire nation of Israel. In that sense, he was the king of kings. If you understand what I'm saying. He was the very first of all. But you know what? As Uncle Ben told Peter Parker in the first Spider-Man movie, which came out in 2002, he says, with great power lies great responsibility. Well, here's what. Saul was not only responsible for ruling the people as the first king of Israel, but most importantly, he was responsible for obeying the instructions that God gave him to do. But sadly, you know what happened to Saul? He failed. So this is what I'm submitting to. This is my proposition. Failure to obey God and what he expects of you to do will make him reject you. And I want to sink in a little bit. When you fail to do what God instructs you to do, the risk is that God who has called you could reject you. Why? Because you failed to do what God instructs you to do. And as we go through the verses, we read from a number of chapters, chapter 9, chapter 28, 13, 31, a few verses. Right? So as I said, I want you to just bear me a little bit. You'll do a little bit of reading, and I'll try my best not to bore you. But my hope is as we do the reading, you will see the progressions, and also you will see the lessons that come out from the life of Saul. And I want us to remember this. And let me say this here. What you will see here happening in the life of Saul is, if I should say, the same can happen to any believer. The same can happen to anybody. The same can happen to me. Don't feel I ain't indispensable. Don't feel I ain't untouchable. Don't feel pastor like don't have your own struggles. Don't feel the bishop of the Grenada district is indispensable. What are we? And I want us to see that. Because at the end of the day, it boils down to you and the decision that you are making where obeying God is concerned. So the first thing I want to share with you is this. God can use anybody. And I want us to get that. And we'll see that from the life of Saul. So turn to 1 Samuel 9. We're going to read a little bit of scripture, verse chapter 9. We're going to read some from chapter 10 as well. So from chapter 9, verse 15 through 17. Right? 1 Samuel 9, that's Old Testament. If you have a Bible like mine, it's page 14. I always like to do that. Right, 1 Samuel 9, 15 to 17. Here's what it says. Now the Lord had told Samuel in his ear the day before, saying, Saul will come to you. Tomorrow about this time I will send a man out of the land of Benjamin, and thou shalt anoint him to be captain over my people Israel, that he may save my people out of the hand of the Philistines. For I have looked upon my people, because the cry is come up unto me. And when Samuel saw Saul, the Lord said unto him, Behold, this is the man who I am talking about. Verse 20 to 21. And as for, this is Samuel speaking to Saul, he says, as for the donkeys which were lost, because Saul was looking for his father's donkey, He says, as for the donkeys which I washed 3 days ago, set not your mind on them, for they are found. And look at this. And on whom is all the desire of Israel? Is it not on thee and on all your father's house? Let me turn briefly to chapter 10, verse 5 to 7. And just the following chapter. Actually, I'll take verse 24 to 27. So after Samuel had anointed Saul, verse 24, and Samuel said to all the people, see ye him whom the Lord had chosen, that there is none like him among all the people. So Saul was a tall and handsome man, much like the Hollywood star. And all the people shouted and said, God save the king. Then Samuel told the people the manner of the kingdom and wrote it in a book and laid it up before the Lord. And Samuel sent the people away, every man to his house. And Saul also went home to Gibeah, and there went with him a band of men whose heart God had touched. But look at this. But the children of Belial said, how shall this man save us? How shall this man save us? And they despised him. This is Saul who was anointed as king. They despised him and brought no presents before him. But Saul held his peace. The fact is this: God can use anybody. And Saul, when Samuel told him that God has anointed him as king, he made an excuse, for want of a better word. And he said, me? God calling me? Samuel said, yes, God calling you. Saul says, but my family, my tribe, is the least smallest tribe in all the tribes of Israel. And out of the least tribe, my family is the least family in that tribe. You see the point? And yet God called Saul to be king. The first king over Israel. The people, they clamored for a king. They lamented, we want a king. As the other nation, God says, that is not good. That idea is not a good one, because as far as God is concerned, they will replace God as king over Israel and set up a man. But they wanted a king. God said, okay, I will give you the king. In the minds of all the people, they know that God is going to give them a king. And you can almost anticipate the excitement that is in the minds of the people. Who will be this prestigious king? Everybody want him. Who will be that man? Who will get the number one privilege of being king over the entire nation of Israel? The first king, the top boss. And God, what did God do? We see God doing something, as He always does in scriptures most of the time, whereby He specializes in taking a nobody and making them somebody. Saul, who was from the least tribe in Israel, who was from the least family, and seemingly insignificant family, from an insignificant tribe, he had nothing going for him apart from his height, that he was a tall man, and his looks. He was kind of like JJ, he was a little bit handsome. Apart from that, he had nothing else going for him. But God did not call him because of that. God chose him by His own will, and God can use any of you. God could choose anybody and use them. So you grow up poor, your family don't have much. So what? God will use you. So you didn't get a secondary school education, or in fact you didn't even get a primary school education. So what? God will use you. You don't have much money in your bank account, kind of like me. So what? God will use you. You are not being chubby than the normal size that people expect people to be. And you may not fit into the mold of society. Says this is the supermodel. So what? God will use you. Or you may not be nice and shaped properly, and your head might be a little bit picky, your head might be like that, obviously, very picky. So what? I think they get the point. God can use you. And this is the first lesson. I want us to see a lesson that we see covered from this. And here is the lesson, because all that Regardless of how messed up your past might be, as long as you find yourself in the Lord, God can use you. Maybe I shall let last one, God can use you. So here's a lesson I want us to see from that. Accept yourself. Appreciate who you are and the family you came from. And I want that to sink in. And I know the community of Vincent since I've always done, but for the most part, we spoke people children. To put it plain, we spoke people children. We know much. We ain't grow up having much for sin. But that does not give you the right, that should not be an excuse for you not to accept who you are. For you not to accept your family and where you come from. In the book of Acts, the Bible says that God is the one who appointed where you were born, the country you were born, the place you were born, the family you were born, so that you would know Him. It don't matter how your family look in. Quite frankly, if you look at mine, you might not see anything exciting and much to celebrate. Me, you shouldn't get it. Accept yourself. Accept your family. Appreciate where you come from. Appreciate your roots. After all, if not for your family, if not for your father, regardless of who he is, he's a bastard. So what? He is responsible for you being here. Regardless of how your mother might treat you, who she is, appreciate where you came from. Is God allowed to be like that? You ever someone think about that? Is God allowed so? No. One of the reasons why this is important for us to understand why we should. As to why we should appreciate yourself and your family. You notice in verse 27 of chapter 10, after Samuel anointed Saul to be king, the Bible said God laid in the heart of some to follow Saul as he went home. But there were some that the Bible describes as sons of Belial, scoundrels, people that don't want to have nothing to do with God more or less. They said, seeing the very fact that Saul is now anointed to be the first king, is God in charge of that? After seeing that, here's what they said to some of them. Who he can rule over me. Who is he? We know he. He from the tribe of Benjamin. He family and them. These people, they are no place in Israel. Who he? He come out of the way. She? Child she from? He? Child he come from? What he could do? So what? God can use you. Like my sons. It don't matter. So you need to appreciate where you came from. Appreciate the family you belong to. So that was the first part. I want us to get that. God can use anybody. But look at how this story turns. Very sadly. And since God can use anybody, it simply means that He has a plan for your life. But you must ensure that you do what He expects of you. Let's keep over this. I cannot go through this. Look at the second point. When you disobey God, He will reject you. That's what's harsh. When you disobey God, and of course we're taking this cue from what we see here in the book of 1 Samuel. When you reject God, He will reject you. Look at verse 13, chapter 13, verse 5. And then also 7 to 13. The Philistines gathered themselves together to fight with Israel. And that's after Saul was anointed as king. 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen and people as the sand, people which is on the sand of the seashore. They came up and preached in Michmash, eastward from Bethlehem. Verse 7 to 13. And some of the Hebrews went over to the land of Gad and Gilead, for as Saul, he was not yet in Gilead, and all the people followed him, trembling. And he tarried 7 days according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal. In essence, Samuel delayed a little bit. And the people were scattered from him. And Saul said, look at what Saul did. He said, bring me the burnt offering and the peace offering. And he offered the burnt offering. And it came to pass that as soon as he had made an end of the offering, that Samuel came and Saul went out to meet him and to salute him. And Samuel said, what have you done? Saul said, well, because I saw that the people were scattered from me and that you didn't come within the time you said you would come. And the Philistines gathered themselves together at Michmash. He said, therefore said I, the Philistines will come down now upon me, and I have not made supplication unto the Lord. So I forced myself therefore and offered a burnt offering. And Samuel said to Saul, you have done foolishly. Thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God, which he commanded thee, for no would the Lord have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever. Verse 12 to 24. I may not read all. Therefore, that's 15, chapter 15. Chapter 15. Chapter 15, 1 to 5. Samuel also said unto Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint me to be king over Israel, over his people. Now therefore do what the Lord says to you. Verse 2 of chapter 15. This is what the Lord said. Thus said the Lord of hosts, I remember that when that which Amalek did to Israel, how he lay wait for him in the way when he came up out of Egypt. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and children, ox and sheep, camel and donkey. And Saul gathered the people together and numbered them in Telaim, 2,200,000 footmen and 10,000 men of Judah. It's quite a lengthy reading, but basically the idea is this: that God gave Saul some instructions to do, and Saul failed. It's one thing to feel happy that you are the king, the chosen one, and to celebrate that. But that wouldn't live too long if you disobey God. It's one thing to celebrate, I am a child of God. But you run the risk of forfeiting that privilege if you're not doing what God has instructed you to do. First, Saul failed, in that Samuel told him to wait for me. But because the Philistines gathered themselves against Israel and they were approaching, Saul got impatient. And that was really a test to see if he really believed in God. He got impatient, and instead of waiting for Samuel the priest to make the offering to God, Saul the king went ahead and do what he ain't supposed to do. He overstepped his boundary, as it were. That which was set up according to the protocols by God. This religious act is something in that time only for the prophet to do. But Saul, as a king, got impatient, he got afraid, and he went and did something else. He went and did it, which of course was not within his purview. That was not under his jurisdiction. You see something? The fact is this, that God who hired you can also fire you. And we know that. Because in your company, if you know you are send them to do, what do you think will happen? Oh. They will fire you. Because you are not doing what is expected of you. Put this in context of our life. In fact, we see it very plainly from the life of Saul, who was chosen and called to be king. But he ain't doing what the king of all kings says to do. So what happens? Get fired. He's fired. So there's a lesson we can learn in this. And the lesson is simple. That we should respect the spiritual boundaries and the protocols that are established in God's church. And let me just make a disclaimer here. It says that this is not just applicable to the local church. Right? Although that is also part of it. But I want to direct your attention in terms of the boundaries and the spiritual protocols that are established as what we should live by as believers. Simply put, there are some things that we are not allowed to do as Christians. There are some places that we are not allowed to go as Christians. There are some lifestyles that we are not allowed to live and partake in as Christians. As people who are called. The Bible says in the book of Peter that we are chosen generation, kings and priests, royal priesthood, holy nation. But there are some things that we as royalty, we're not allowed to do that. So let me see if I can give you some examples to make it a little to come home to you. We are not allowed to say some things. For example, using curse words, obscenities. Example, throwing curse on people. Oh. So because you are Christian and the Lord is with you and is God's child, anybody fret you. Touch not the Lord anointed and do his prophet no harm. You fret me, you do me bad, okay, I will do for you. So you throw us on people's children. And throw us on people's life. And you say that's good for them, that serve them right. But God says, love your enemies. We are to be the hands and feet of God. We are chosen by God to show people how to live. You are not allowed to do certain things. The obvious one in the Western culture, sexual immorality. You are not allowed to cheat and con people. As a Christian, you are not allowed to go certain places like carnival, the club, the Obia house, the Obia man, the Obia woman. I mean, really. You are not allowed to pursue certain goals and dreams. You are not allowed to be a swimsuit model. You are not allowed to pursue the Solomon king. As a Christian, there are some things that we're not allowed to do. We're not allowed to participate in the lifestyle of the LGBTQI+, etc., 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 and the sexual perversions. That is not within our purview. We're not allowed to do that. If we go ahead and do that, you run the risk of moving from being called to being rejected. Many are called, and many are rejected. Why many are rejected? Because many fail to do what God expects them to do. Think about that. What if, let me not jump ahead too much, but I just had this question. What if at the end of your life, when you die, you realize that you forfeit heaven, the glorious life in heaven for torment in hell, and you check back in your life, only to realize that you is responsible for that. You didn't obey certain instructions. You felt that as my own man, as my own woman, I can do what I want, I can live what I want, I can achieve whatever goals I want. As a Christian, without realizing the danger in achieving certain things. Then Jesus said, what will it profit a man to gain the whole world? And was it so? What shall a man give in exchange for his soul. Think about it. Which is more valuable? The images? Looking nice in people's eyes? Being accepted by people, but rejected by God? Achieving all the money you can probably achieve within a span? And forfeiting the riches in heaven? Living nice on earth, sleeping well, as far as physical things are concerned. But burning in hell. Which is more important? Which is more valuable? The second thing that Paul saw is that when God instructed him to destroy the Amalekites totally, God said, don't let nothing stay back. He said, clean up everything. Why? Because when the children of Israel were coming out of Egypt, and they had to pass through to go to the land of Canaan, Amalek, the father of the Amalekites, when they asked him to pass through the land peacefully, he said, no, I didn't pass it here. He fought against Israel. And God said, okay, good idea. When I send away people, they will come back and they will deal with you. And Saul now is in a position to carry out God's plan as far as the Amalekites is concerned. But here's what happened. When Saul went and they defeated the Amalekites, they mashed up the place, they defeated everything. God said, destroy everything. That might sound kind of harsh. But God has a reason. Male, female, children, animal, everything. Wind them up. You know what Saul did? Saul said, well, imagine Saul going destroying the city, destroying these people, destroying the land. And all of a sudden, Saul see a bull. Now, he never seen Israel yet. He see a sheep, that sheep are never been already. Walking nice, take bull. And Saul, what he did? He said, nah, God, what? That was too good. I ain't going to kill that. I have to be a clown. I saved that. In addition to that, the evil went ahead and saved the king. I don't know if the king maybe was looking like Kelvin. You know, the tall and the shocking and thing and so he said, nah, I want to be a good son for my kingdom. And you know, so I saved the king, saved this choice animal. And when Samuel made him one for his stupidness, he said, is the people force me? Is the people that make me do that? And what Saul did, and I want us to get that, what Saul did is that he replaced God's voice as the authoritative voice with his own. And he became his own man. So God said, why would everything? Saul said, no, God. Take me wrong here. Someone must be saved. So Saul displaced God and set up himself as the boss. And when he thought that he did exceptionally well, when Samuel came on the scene, he realized that he did very poorly and miserably embarrassing. There's a lesson that we can learn from this. First is this: no form of excuse is valid for not obeying God. Absolutely none. Now I know I ain't gonna be insensitive to what is going on in life. I know that there are a lot of struggles in life. People go through ranting. I can testify from my own self. And you can either choose to allow these challenges and these pressures to motivate you to hold on to what is important. Or you can choose to allow these challenges to make you slip away from obeying God. But rest assured that absolutely no form of excuse, none, is valid. What you could really tell God for not obeying? Innocent child, growing up, looking very promising, respectable, some wicked, looking for some adjectives that pregnancy comes. The child and the family, because of the morals that they hold on to, they don't believe in abortion. So they have to force to accept this reality and allow the pregnancy to stand. 13 years, baby on the way. When you are a Christian, you're serving God. What will the child do? What will the parents do for that matter? But God, if you cause this, I'm blaming you for that. So I'm not following again. Anything you tell me to do, I'm disobeying that. And at the end, God will ask, that's the best excuse. But they ain't good. What is the excuse? Things hard, God. Pressure, COVID-19, I lost my job. Things hard, God. I lost my wife, I lost my husband, as the case may be. Things hard, God. You see how bad I was waiting for my marriage. Engaged for 5 years, and I'm waiting. Somehow the woman decide, you waiting too long. So she can't pick somebody else. Man, within 3 months. But God, this you cause so you didn't stay with your wife. Me and study again. You see, right now, let me live my own life. I can make it on my own. I can handle my stories. And yet, die. Stand before God. And he asks you, why did you do what you do? But you remember when you all of this nice constant you have to go and live with another man, you know what you do, man. And God says, that's the excuse. Like, see, that's the best shot. No excuses. Place where he squared with these things now, and he went and asked the Lord, should I go up and fight? And he ain't hear nothing. God didn't answer. Because as far as God is concerned, this man was not obedient to me. And there isn't any indication from the story of Saul, there isn't any indication that Saul was repentant. When Samuel pointed out Saul's fault, instead for Saul to repent and to accept his wrong and to make it up, Saul was seeking for Samuel to walk with him, so in the eyes of the people, they will see that Saul and Samuel are still on the path. No sign of repentance. And when God didn't answer him, he went to the witch. He went to a witch to seek answers that only God will give. Can you imagine that? And it